Book 2, Chapter 24 of Bradford's History of the Plymouth Settlement, 1608 to 1650. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Bradford's History of the Plymouth Settlement, 1608 to 1650, by William Bradford. Rendered into modern English by Harold Paget. Book 2, Chapter 24. Mr. Edward Winslow was chosen governor this year. Many having left here, owing to the district being so limited and barren, and their finding better accommodation elsewhere, and several others looking for opportunity to go, the Church began seriously to consider whether it were not better to remove jointly to some other place, than to be thus weakened, and, as it were, insensibly dissolved. Much consultation took place, and opinions varied. Some were for staying together here, arguing that people could live here if only they were content, and that it was not so much for necessity that they removed, as for enriching themselves. Others were resolute upon removal, and signified that here they could not stay, and that if the Church did not remove, they must. This swayed many to agree to removal, rather than that there should be a total dissolution, if a place could be found suitable to accommodate the whole body more conveniently and comfortably, and with room for development should others join them for their greater strength and better subsistence. With these provisos the majority consented to removal to a place called Nauset, which had been superficially viewed, and the goodwill of the owners obtained. They began too late to see the error of their previous policy, for they found they had already given away the best and most convenient places to others, and now were in want of such situations themselves. For Nauset was about 50 miles from here, on the outskirts of the country, and remote from all society. Furthermore, on close examination, they found it would prove so limited, that it would not suffice to accommodate the whole body, much less be capable of any expansion. So in a short time they would be worse off there than they were now. This made them change their resolution, but such as were resolved upon removal took advantage of the agreement made, and went on notwithstanding; nor could the rest hinder them, since they had already made some beginning. Thus was this poor church left like an ancient mother, grown old, and forsaken of her children. Though not in their affections, yet as regards their bodily presence and personal helpfulness. Her ancient members being most of them worn away by death, and those of later times being, like children, transferred to other families, she, like a widow, was left only to trust in God. Thus she who had made many rich, herself became poor. Soon another broil was begun by the Narragansetts. Though they had unjustly made war upon Uncas, as before described, the winter before this they earnestly urged the governor of Massachusetts to permit them to make war again in revenge for the death of their sagamore, claiming that Uncas had first received and accepted ransom for Miantinomo, and then put him to death. But the governor refused the presents they brought, and told them it was they themselves who had done wrong and broken the conditions of peace. Neither he nor any of the English would allow them to make any further war upon Uncas, and that if they did so the English must assist him and oppose them. But if when the commissioners met, the matter having had a fair hearing, it could be proved that he had received this ransom, they would make Uncas return it. Notwithstanding this, at the spring of the year they gathered in great power, and fell upon Uncas, killing many of his men and wounding more, besides receiving some loss themselves. Uncas then called for aid from the English. They told him what the Narragansetts objected; he denied it. They told him it must come to trial, and if he was innocent, should the Narragansetts refuse to desist, they would assist him. So at this meeting they sent both to Uncas and the Narragansetts, and required their sagamores to come, or send deputies to the commissioners, who had now met at Hartford, promising a fair and impartial hearing of all their grievances, and that all wrongs should be redressed. They also promised that they should come and return without any danger or molestation. Upon which the Narragansetts sent one sagamore and some other deputies, with full power to do what was thought right. Uncas came in person, accompanied by some of his chiefs. After discussion, the commissioners made the following declaration to the Narragansett deputies. 1. That they did not find any proof of a ransom being agreed upon. 2. It did not appear that any wampum had been paid as a ransom, or any part of a ransom for Miantinomo's life. 3. that, had they in any way proved their charge against Uncas, the commissioners would have required him to make due satisfaction. 4. That if hereafter they could produce satisfactory proof, the English would consider it and proceed accordingly. 5. The commissioners required that neither they nor their allies, the Nyantics, should make war or injurious assault upon Uncas or any of his tribe, until they could show proof of the ransom being given, unless he should first attack them. 6. That if they attacked Uncas, the English had undertaken to assist him. Hereupon the Narragansett sachem, consulting with the other deputies, undertook on behalf of the Narragansetts and Nyanticks that no hostile acts should be committed upon Uncas or any of his tribe till after the next planting of corn; and that thereafter, before they made war they would give 30 days' notice to the Governor of Massachusetts or Connecticut. The commissioners, approving of this offer, required Uncas, as he expected the continuance of the favour of the English, to observe the same terms of peace with the Narragansetts and their people. The foregoing conclusions were then subscribed by the commissioners for the several jurisdictions, on the 19th of September, 1644; Edward Hopkins, President; Simon Bradstreet; William Hathorne; Edward Winslow; John Brown; George Fenwick; Theophany Eaton; Thomas Gregson. The Narragansett deputies further promised that if, contrary to this agreement, any of the Nyantick Pequots made any attack upon Uncas or any of his people, they would deliver them to the English for punishment; and that they would not attempt to incite the Mohawks against Uncas during this truce. Their names were subscribed with their marks: Weetowish, Pampiamet, Chinook, Pamunis. End of Book 2, Chapter 24.